Hey everybody, Christina Stuart here with Christina Stuart Photography, and welcome to Photo Tips Tuesday. So glad you're here. This weekend I was photographing the Women's Prosperity Network's Unconference, a conference like no other. And this actually was the 5th conference that I photographed for them. They've had 11, and this was my 5th one photographing for them. And they actually announced that they're not going to be doing this event anymore. They're going to be evolving and growing into another type of event. So I'll continue shooting for them. It's just going to be quite a different experience. I just wanted to share some of the tips and tools that I use when I'm photographing events. This weekend, there was about 350 attendees, lots of speakers. It was a 3.5-day event with a bonus meet and greet the night before the actual event started, which I photographed. So it was 4 days of shooting. And I brought an assistant with me this time because one of my students, it was one of my assistants, because I was shooting headshots. And so I brought all my lights and my backdrop and lots of equipment in my little car and her in our suitcases. And fortunately we fit everything. And we had a really good time. It helped her to see how I shoot things, how I interact with clients, where to go, where I am, what I do when I'm shooting a big event like this. And it was so nice to have her because the clients loved her, all the attendees loved her. She learned a lot, and it was great to be able to have her there. It's kind of like a 4-day lesson for her because she was able to ask me questions. I didn't rely on her images. It was really good practice for her. She could ask me questions throughout the event, while we were shooting, or at the end of the day, usually, because I was pretty busy throughout the day. And it was just a really good time to have her with me. She's so fun to be with. Sandy, you guys met her on the interview a few sessions ago. And we just had a really good time. And I think she told me she learned a lot. And she was pretty worn out by the end of the weekend, but also exhilarated throughout, which is usually what happens for me too. I just go, go, go. The camera gives me life. I have a lot of fun. I'm usually shooting, especially when I'm doing headshots like this. I usually start shooting at 7 in the morning. And then they have VIP parties and people having fun in the evening. So I'll keep shooting. I'm usually the first one there and the last one to leave because you never know when that perfect, wonderful, amazing picture is going to happen, and you want to be there for it. So that's one little tip, is be there early, stay late. In order to save my arm and my shoulder after a long, long day of shooting like that, is I use a monopod. Excuse me. Tripod is just too cumbersome. It takes up too much space. It's not easy to move and quickly and if something happens, or if a speaker does something that I'm not prepared for, or I'm in the back of the room and they're doing something, interacting with a client way up front in the room in the audience, I've got to run up front. So I don't have time to detach the camera, even with a quick release, and get up there. So the monopod really helps save me when I'm using my longer lens. I use it for my 70 to 200, 2.8, which is about that long. So it's pretty heavy by the end of the day. Especially too, I use the flash, which we'll talk about in a minute. So that adds some extra weight when I'm shooting events. So this monopod actually has a twist and extend tube system. And I have a quick release one. This is a Gitzo. I have a Manfrotto also, the quick release where you kind of click and it releases and you click it and shut it. That one doesn't hold as well anymore. It kind of slips down because there's no way to tighten it. This one I can tighten by hand. This has lasted a lot longer. I love the monopod because it really just helps save my shoulder at the end of the day. I do also bring a hot pad usually to these things and just sleep on the hot pad at the end of the day. That really helps to relax my muscles. And the other tip is I have a massage scheduled at least the day after. I try no more than 2 days after an event because it's a lot of weight. It's a lot of shooting, long, long days. I shot 6,000 pictures this weekend, not including the headshots that I did. That was just pure event photos. So that's the monopod. Saves time. It's fast. It adjusts if I'm sitting down in a chair. I don't have to have it fully extended, which is nice. And I can also, it holds I usually have the lens attached. I don't use it when I'm shooting my wide angle lens because I don't want to attach to the bottom of the camera because there is an attachment here. I just use it for my longer lens because it's pretty heavy. So that's the first tip. Use a monopod. It will save your shoulder. Second thing is, I mentioned the flash. If you have a camera that has one of those little pop-up flashes, they're pretty much useless. You can't control the direction of the light, and that direct flash is the most unflattering for your subjects. The only time you really want to use direct flash is if you're using it as a fill flash outdoors on a bright sunny day. So that's really the only time you're going to use direct. So this actually detaches. It's called an external flash, and it has an adjustable head is what this is called. So you can lift it up. I can bounce it to the ceiling, which is the best lighting when you're using this on your camera. You want to bounce it up the ceiling. I use this as a little fill card. It's really supposed to be like a diffuser, which I use it for that too, but having a fill card, and some cameras actually have this plus a little white card, and I think my white card broke off a long time ago. So the flash bounced up at the ceiling, have a little bit of fill card fills in a little bit under the eyes, under the nose, under those shadows, and under the chin. So it adds a little pop of light. But that bounce flash is really fantastic. It's really ideal when you're shooting at events like this. Because a lot of times you'll have spotlight on the stage on the speakers, which is great because that gives you more light. Then you don't, either the audience is in complete darkness or it's in a lower light situation, and that's more challenging. So I use the flash throughout the event, and there's so much going on. Nobody ever has an issue with it. So, but do talk to the event coordinator. If they do have an issue with it, then just tell them they're gonna have really dark pictures or really blurry pictures, because that's pretty challenging to shoot in without extra light. So I'm moving around constantly. I'm always looking at the audience. I get up on stage and the speakers want those pictures. So again, just double check with the speaker ahead of time. Let them know, all the speakers, that you are gonna be up on stage, getting behind them, because most of them want the audience in front of them. They have a gazillion pictures of them on the actual stage with the audience in front of them, but they want, basically every speaker wants a standing ovation and the picture of them on the stage with all the people standing and cheering in front of them, right? Like, how amazing is that? So I am fearless and I go pretty much anywhere. I do warn the speakers ahead of time that if anybody doesn't want me on the stage to let me know. I have never had one say, don't get on stage. And I have photographed Jack Canfield, and Sandra Yancey was just at this event, Jerry Foster, I mean, all kinds of top speakers, and they all want that picture. So put on, get on up, get on stage, and get some of those pictures, because they can turn out really, really nice. And you see the whole audience. It's really fantastic. So flash. With the flash, you're going to need lots of batteries. I love Duracell. They're excellent. They last quite a bit longer. They have a pretty quick turnaround time. These are the Extra Life. I don't even remember. They do actually have some photo-specific batteries. They're a little more expensive. I also use rechargeable batteries. So remember to bring your chargers for your camera and your batteries if you're doing it. But I still always have ready-made, kind of ready-to-go batteries just as a backup, because I never know quite how long these are gonna last. And in case I don't bring the charger with me, I always wanna have these on hand. So those are a couple tips about an event. You want to make sure you get the audience reactions to the speakers, especially if you know they're pretty animated. Any games, any interactions, you want to get any tears, pick up that camera if somebody cries, okay? It's not always laughing. A lot of times it's those breakthroughs and tears that people are realizing what's happening in their business or their lives, and they're starting to have some breakthroughs. So pick up the camera, shoot it, have fun. Thank you so much for watching Photo Tips Tuesday. I'm Christina Stuart. Have a great week.